The clock had just struck midnight. Emily sat behind the worn-out front desk of a small-town hotel, her eyes heavy from the long night shift. Her paycheck barely covered her mother's medical bills, but she never complained. She had dreams. Not of luxury, but of one day owning a cozy inn where people felt like family. Just as she was pouring herself some cheap coffee, the front doors creaked open. A man stumbled in hair unkempt, clothes wrinkled, reeking of alcohol. Most staff would have called security, but not Emily. She rushed over and gently helped him to a seat. "You're safe here," she said softly, offering him water. He tried to speak but couldn't. She didn't ask questions. She didn't judge. Instead, she used her staff discount to book him a room, placed a warm blanket over his shoulders, and walked him to the elevator. Her coworkers looked on in disbelief. "He's drunk. Probably homeless," one whispered, but Emily only smiled. Sometimes people just need someone to be kind. What she didn't know was that her one act of quiet compassion would echo far beyond this night. Because sometimes, when no one's watching, life tests your soul, not your status. And Emily had just passed a test she didn't even know she was taking. The next morning, Emily returned to work hoping to see the man, maybe sober, maybe thankful. But his room was empty, clean. He had vanished. The hotel manager called her into the office. "You gave a free room to a drunk stranger? That's not protocol," he barked. "You could have endangered our reputation." His voice echoed off the bland office walls. Emily nodded silently. "I just didn't want him to sleep. On the street, he looked like he needed help." The manager shook his head. "You're not a social worker. This is a business." Back at the desk, her coworker sneered. "He probably robbed the minibar too." One joked. Another added, "Well, there goes your chance at Employee of the Month." Emily didn't defend herself. She just continued folding guest invoices, her smile never fully returning. But deep inside, she held on to something most others had lost faith. Not in systems, but in people. "You never know who someone really is," she said quietly that evening to a regular guest, an old lady who had overheard the gossip. The lady nodded. "That's the thing about kindness, dear. It sees beyond the mess." Emily went home that night not feeling proud, but not ashamed either, because true kindness isn't always celebrated. Sometimes, it's mocked, but the heart that gives always remembers. Exactly 1 week later, the hotel parking lot buzzed with curiosity. A sleek black Rolls-Royce pulled up to the front doors, gleaming chrome, tinted windows, and a private chauffeur. Outstepped a sharply dressed man in a crisp suit and polished shoes. His posture was commanding, his presence magnetic. The staff scrambled. Who was he? He walked directly to the front desk. "I'm looking for a woman named Emily," he said calmly. Emily stepped forward, unsure. Her voice trembled. "That's me, he smiled. "You probably don't recognize me, but I recognize you. I'm the man you helped last week. I was not at my best." Her eyes widened. "No way." This polished gentleman was the same drunk stranger. "My name is Richard Kingsley," he continued. "I own this hotel, and 20 more like it." The entire staff froze. The manager nearly choked on his coffee. Emily stood stunned. Richard turned to everyone and said, "She was the only person who treated me like a human when I was invisible, broken, and ashamed. She saw me. She cared." Gasps filled the lobby. Phones were discreetly pulled out. Everyone stared, but not at Richard. At Emily. She had no idea that her quiet act of kindness was about to change everything. Because the man she helped had the power to rewrite her story. Inside the hotel's private conference room, Richard and Emily sat across from one another. The long polished table between them was lined with contracts, but Richard wasn't here for business. He was here for something bigger. "I didn't tell anyone who I was," he began. "I'd just lost my daughter to cancer. I was drinking, angry, lost. And for the first time in years, I wandered. No driver, no suit, just grief." His voice cracked. Emily listened silently, tears forming. "You reminded me of her," he said. "She used to say, people aren't trash. Sometimes, they're just tired. You looked at me that night, and you didn't see a drunk. You saw a human." He slid a folder across the table. Emily opened it slowly. Property deeds, transfer papers, and a letter with her name. "This hotel is yours now," he said. Her breath caught. "What? No, I can't." "Yes, you can," he said firmly. "Compassion like yours should lead places like this. The world needs hearts like yours at the top." She burst into tears. Not for the gift, but for the recognition, the validation of everything she had always believed. That kindness always comes back, sometimes quietly, sometimes like thunder. A few months later, the hotel lobby looked the same. Same floors, same chandeliers, but everything felt warmer, brighter, more human. Emily stood at the front desk, now manager, owner, leader, and still wearing the same simple smile she always had. Her mother, now fully recovered, sat in the reading lounge sipping tea. Staff greeted guests with genuine warmth. and a new sign above the check-in counter read, * welcome home, where kindness runs this place. * Richard had stayed in touch, quietly mentoring from afar. But this was Emily's hotel now. She brought in local artists to decorate, started a fund to help struggling guests, and made a new rule. * No one gets turned away without water and warmth. * One evening, a quiet, tired-looking man walked in dusty clothes, heavy backpack. Emily approached with a smile, handed him tea, and asked, "How can we help?" * He blinked. No one had spoken to him that kindly in years. * A young staff member asked her, "Do you think he'll turn out to be a millionaire too?" Emily laughed gently. Maybe not. But he's someone. That's enough reason to care. And that was Emily's legacy, not wealth, not ownership, but the quiet power of believing that everyone matters. Because sometimes, helping one stranger opens the door to your future.